My name is Mason. I'm a real estate agent here in Vail, Arizona, and this is your July 2026 real estate market update. If you want to know the numbers, if you want to know the temperature of the market, my love language is numbers, data, and research. This is what I love to do. So if you're here, you're probably truly considering buying a home or selling a home. This is where my educational content, my market updates are going to live. So with that being said, let's get into it. Previously, I've given you the numbers and structure up front. For now, I'm just going to have a conversation and give you an update on how the market is while I'm practicing it, and then I'll give you the numbers, because I will say the numbers and what I'm feeling out there and what the families are feeling really paint two different stories. So first and foremost, if you are a buyer or a seller, the busiest price point is going to be anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000. And that's specific to Vail. And just so you guys know, the criteria I'm working with, the parameters I've set are single family homes only. So no condos, no townhomes, no land, and no manufactured homes. So just single family homes. Also only an 85641. So we're looking at Southeast Tucson, Vail specifically, and only single family homes. If your home is $300,000 to $400,000, whether you're a buyer or seller, if you're in that price point, that is the busiest and most active price point there is by a mile. If you're on the buying side, you might face competition, probably not. We're not really seeing competing offers. However, it does make sense for you to have, and it's advantageous really, that's probably a more appropriate way to say it, have all your ducks in a row. And this is what I tell every family I work with. If we're out shopping for homes, let's make sure before we hit the streets, you have every document, every number you need from the loan officer lined up and ready to go. That doesn't mean you're committing to a home. That doesn't mean you're buying anything. It doesn't even cost you anything. But if you and your family walk into the home that you say, Mason, we love it, we got to have it, what you don't want is to go home at 7 at night, try to get all your documents in and have to scramble, then you got work in the morning. Just make sure you have all your documents, all your ducks in a row, so that way when you do go house shopping, you know, hey, we know what the numbers are. We know that this works. We know this is what we want. Let's submit the offer. So, and that applies to any category of price point. So ultimately, what I tell every family, make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Make sure that when you go shopping for homes or go on a view and tour these homes, you're ready to go if the right one pops up and falls in your lap. Now, if you're a seller, you need to put your best foot forward. I think the number for price reductions is 49%. So let's just call it 50%. Half of all homes on market right now have experienced a price reduction. Now, I'm going to make an assumption here. This probably is true for maybe a third of homes, and who knows what the other 2/3 are. My assumption is that sellers and some buyers, but mainly sellers, still have a bit of a hangover or a lingering feeling from the COVID years. I still hear in July and June of 2026 comments such as, I hope I get multiple offers. I hope I get over asking price. I hope my home sells in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. And don't get me wrong, there are a few houses that sell that perform extremely well, which is quite rare right now. But in the market we're in, homes are not flying off the shelf. Sellers are not seeing competing offers. Sellers are not making out like bandits when it comes to getting over asking price. Sellers are overpriced entering the market, and they're sitting for 60, 90, 200, 300 days. This is not an exaggeration. There are some homes out there that have sat for over 500 days. Who knows what's going through their mind, but it exists, and they exist here in Vail as well. So with that being said, sellers, you need to have realistic pricing. There's aspirational pricing, there's realistic pricing, and then there's pricing that really generates some good activity. Ultimately, it's up to you. It's your prerogative. It is your home. It's your asset. You as the seller are 1,000% in charge of your price point. I, as your agent, your advisor, your professional in the room, I can give you all the numbers and data that you want. Some of the best clients are the ones that say, you know what, we trust you. What do you think we should be close to? Or what's the number you think we should be at? And they take it and run. And that's not to say I'm always right, because you can never know who the buyer's going to be, when they're going to come, and what price they're going to give you. We can use the data, and that is my love language, numbers, data, and digging deep and doing all the research. I can go back 100 years on the MLS to pull the data. So what I'm saying is, sellers, you gotta reevaluate your prices, because I promise you, coming out on the market too hot, too high, too expensive is going to net you a good chunk less. And on average right now, I believe it's the average price from what you list from to what you close is about a 5 to 6% difference. So if you have a $500,000 house and you close 5% under what you listed it for, $500,000, that's about a $25,000 to $30,000 loss because you sat on the market. The numbers that I saw, once you hit day 60 to 65, that bar graph goes down and to the right. That means you are just bleeding dollars the longer you sit on the market. And that's nothing new. That is worldwide, national, publicly available knowledge. The longer something sits, the more likely you are to get gouged or to get negotiated with. As an aggressive buyer's agent, I'm coming for the throat. I'm going to take you for everything you have. Not because I'm greedy, but because I have a legal obligation, I have a fiduciary duty to watch out for the best interest of my clients. So someone that looks at the data, someone that studies this for a living, and quite frankly, I'm obsessed with it. Ask my wife, she can't stand it. I'm going to take everything I can into consideration about your home, about your listing, and I'm going to turn the bolts. That way I put my clients into the most advantageous position possible. And I'm going to say this, my disclaimer, I only operate within ethical, legal, moral, and appropriate guidelines, boundaries, rules, restrictions, legalities, whatever you want to do it, however you want to describe it. I am going to do everything I can to get a win for my client. Same goes for the selling side. Sellers, if I'm your agent, trust me, I'm going to try to build a bulletproof plan because I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to put myself in the buyer's shoes scenario and say, how can they leverage us? How can they put pressure on us? What can they take advantage of? And what should I not disclose to them? And when I say not disclose, personal matters. Maybe a timeline, maybe something that they can tap into and leverage against my clients to get them better numbers. And again, I want to be crystal clear. Everything I'm saying here, which I'm being general because I'm not going to give you my playbook on how I negotiate. Everything's done with confines of the contract, the rules and regulations for the Arizona Department of Real Estate. But at the end of the day, it's a negotiation. And some of the best agents I've ever met are some of the nicest people. But when they negotiate, it's a whole nother ballpark. So all that to say, sellers, in the market we're in, the temperature we're in, the climate we're in, you need to make sure you are stepping into the market with realistic pricing that generates activity and not lowball offers is probably the best way to say it. And so I want to circle back real quick. What we're seeing in the streets feels slow, feels stagnant, feels boring, feels like there's a bunch of average homes out there. And when I say average, and I've said this before in my other videos, average homes, or the sea of average that I see out there, are homes that were maybe built in 1990, 2000, 2010, 2020, but they feel every bit like the date they were made. So I walk into a 1999 home and it's completely original. Sure, maybe they have a new water heater, but ultimately it feels every bit of 1999. And with the way milk costs and gas and daycare and the cost of homeowners insurance and the cost to get a loan, the last thing families want is to walk into a time capsule and say, oh, we love the home, but it's got a 30-year-old roof. It's got a 30-year-old air conditioner. It's got a 30-year-old water heater, so on and so forth. You go into older homes. You go into older homes with cast iron piping, maybe lead paint. It's just all adds up to cost. So even though the home shows well, the home smells great, the media and the photos and the market are done to a high level, there's still cost that the buyer is going to have to incur because your home is as original gets. But pause, don't go demoing your whole home. What I would say is bring a real estate agent into your home to evaluate it. It makes no sense if you have a 2005 home, you redo the bathroom, and now you have a 2026 powder room and a 2005 remainder of home. So cost does not equal value. Even though you put $30,000 into a partial remodel, you're not going to get your $30,000 out. So don't go breaking down walls. Don't do anything drastic. You'd be shocked at what a little TLC, a little bit of sweat equity and some paint and maybe some new carpet, you'd be shocked at how far that goes. And that's something that I encourage all sellers to do. Clean the home, bring in an agent, and get our thoughts on what you could do to get the most bang for your buck, to maximize your presentation of your home, to bring buyers with the highest offer possible. So to wrap things up on kind of where the market is practically, realistically, buyers have the time to shop. Buyers have the ability and the time and the options to cancel contracts, to back out. It's not to a point yet where supply is forcing them to say, man, there's nothing else on the market. Sure, there's not the best homes on the market, but ultimately buyers have time. Buyers want the numbers that they want, in order to lower the rate to get the numbers in line with their budget. And that's just a fact. That's how buyers are negotiating. Oh, I like the home, but you want to play hardball and not give me any concessions to help lower my rate or cover my closing costs? Okay, I'm out. Good luck. 200 days later, that seller maybe wishes they would have taken that offer. So one of the categories I looked at was how many total home sales are happening right now. And so I went back to 2023. From 2023, so a 12-month period, so 12 months in 2023, a full calendar year for 24, 25, and now 6 months of 2026. The 6 months that we have been active with home sales in Vail for 2026, when we compare those numbers going back to 2023 and, to include all the in-between years, we are seeing record number of home sales in Vail. Not only have we reached the levels of activity that we saw during COVID, we have now surpassed them. Prices have remained stable and balanced. We're not in any bidding wars, which is why you don't hear this crazy real estate market right now. What you do hear is, oh, it's terrible, rates are high, and we're going to stay put and not move. But I promise you, there are a lot of families still out there shopping and selling homes. And that's not me talking. That is the numbers speaking for themselves. Again, over the past 6 months, of those months, 5 of them have had record numbers when it comes to total sales. So that tells me the market is busy. And I can't speak for all of Tucson, but Vail has seen a huge surge when it comes to the summer market, especially because the Vail School District is about to start school here in the next week or two, I think July 20th. These are families that want to get settled before the school year starts. They want their kids stepping into the school and they've already moved in, so that way they're transitioning into the next grade and their kids can find their routine and families don't have to worry about unpacking. They're more worried about getting their kids to school. So busy summer market. It lines up exactly with the school schedule. And this is what the data shows for the last 20 years. So if you are a buyer or seller right now, it's still a busy time. Where we see a steep drop off is in the month of September all the way to January. So here's the last piece I'll give you, the last conversational piece I give you and a bit of my opinion on what I'm seeing based off the data. I just told you that sales are at an all-time high. However, the amount of homes listed on the market are actually at an all-time low. So even though the buyer demand is present and there's still a good selection of homes, we are definitely seeing a downtick when it comes to sellers putting their home on the market. And again, I think it just points back to the conditions that exist in the world of housing. Rates are higher. Rates are actually really high as of today. The world is in an interesting place. We have the World Cup going on. From what I hear, jobs are pretty tough. There's a lot of transition, a lot of interesting times going on. So that's my speculation. I'm not one to doom and gloom, but what I'm seeing is that sellers are not too eager to put their home on the market, but buyers have said, you know what? We're tired of waiting. We want to buy some homes. Here's my golden nugget. Sellers, and this is seller specific, if you have a super polished home, if you have a home that has been well maintained, upgraded, and I'm not saying it has to look like the Taj Mahal or something, that's a work of art, but if you've put some quality upgrades in it, if you have landscaping in the backyard, if you have a nice clean garage, if you have a good kitchen and an updated, maybe updated flooring, fresh paint, clean windows, a decent roof, your home will outperform a majority of what exists right now. Again, this is July 2026, so if you're seeing this within the next few months, it's still relevant. It should still be relevant. Those are the homes that are performing the best, are the homes that have some shine to them. The homes that when you walk in, you can feel, wow, they really took care of this home. There's not a speck of dust. There's not a crack. I'm not seeing handprints all over the wall. You can tell that whoever is maintaining the outside of it is very meticulous with the wood and the paint and the stucco or the brick and the landscaping and the negative and positive grading on the side of your house, the rocks, so on and so forth. Sellers, if you have a good home, it's going to perform well because of what I referenced earlier. There is a sea of average and very mundane and dated time capsule homes on the market right now, and you're not going to have a lot of competition. So best of luck to you. All right, so next up are all the numbers. This is the dry stuff. If you like this stuff as much as I do, then I appreciate you making it this far. I hope the first half of the video painted a good picture as to where the market's at. If you price right, you're pretty much going to walk away with the exact number that you want. It's only about it's only about minus half to negative 1% with what sellers are walking away with if you price right. So expect to lose just about 1% on your list price. just because buyers are asking for concessions. All right, you'll have to forgive me. I'm going to read from my phone here, but the total number of sales for Vail, and this is single family homes only for the month of June, was a total of 90 homes. This is up 17% year over year. So 17% is huge, which tells me there are more families buying and selling than there ever have been in the last 5 years. The median sales price is $420,000, so 420. That's pretty on par with the upper end single family homes around Tucson and Pima County. That is up 6%, so great value increase over the last year, over the last 12 months. The average sale price is $454,000. That is also up a good amount at 5%. The median days on market for a single family home are 37, so just a hair over a month and change, and that is down 7 days from the same time last year. So again, we are seeing more activity. We're seeing improvement when it comes to the pace of real estate. The average days on market, and this isn't the best number to track, but it's at 62 days on market, and that's 4 days higher than last year. For this particular metric, I do like median. So median is 37 days. I'd say give it about a month and a half before you truly start to reevaluate your listing if you're on the seller side. But ultimately, I'm not too mad at those numbers. They point to a very balanced market. The average price per square foot is $217. This is up 1% from the same time last year. I look at that number, I don't put a whole lot of weight on it, but it just shows me that if it only fluctuated 1% year over year, things are moving in a steady, gradual way, which is up and to the right. We are seeing values increase, if just a little. This next one is super important, and this is the one I really like to look at. It doesn't give me a whole lot, but it definitely gives me the temperature of the market. And this is the percent of list price received. So going back to the home that was $500,000. If you have a home that is $500,000 and you get 100% of your list price received, then that means you walked away with $500,000. That's assuming your house is, you own it and there's no closing costs. So just work with me here. If you walk away with 99% of list price, so you lose 1% of your list price, you are going home with money in your pocket at $495,000. You lost $5,000 or 1%. So the percent of list price received for sellers in Vail is coming in at 99%. So they're only really losing about 1% of price once they finally find the price that resonates with buyers. Again, keep in mind, about 50% of all homes are cutting their prices by 5 to 6%. Once they settle, get a buyer, and they go to the closing table, they subtract another 1%. So in total, they're out anywhere from 5 to 7 to maybe 8% if you have to reduce earlier on during your listing. So I know that was a lot, but ultimately you want to make sure that you're reducing the amount of hit or loss you're taking to your net gains. 1% on list price received shows me a very balanced market. Months of supply is also a good one. This tells us if there were no more homes put on the market today, how long would the inventory take to completely deplete and go to zero? No homes for sale, and that is 2.9 months. Anything under, let's call it 4 months of inventory, typically leans towards a seller's market. However, we're nowhere near a seller's market, except the homes that are really well polished, really well maintained. Those are performing very well. So even though the inventory levels tell me it's skewed in a slightly seller's market, completely not. We are in a, I would say, 99.9% balanced market with a slight lean towards buyers. The amount of listings that went up, and I believe this should be for just the month, was 109. So we saw 109 homes listed, and that was up 8% from the same time last year. So we are seeing sellers put more homes on the market, but when we compare it over the past couple years, it's definitely not where it was before. And the amount of new pending homes, which means the amount of times homes that went under contract, was 75, and that was a big zero when it came to the change year over year. So activity is pretty similar to what it was last year. However, values have gone up, and we're seeing buyers put in a lot more offers than they have previously. So if I could leave you with any advice, whether you're a buyer or seller, study. And you not necessarily study, but your agent needs to study everything about the market, the listing, the buy side, the sell side, because there are so many pieces that you can take advantage of. Remember, at the end of the day, it's a negotiation. This is a major purchase. You don't really need to haggle when you go to Target and buy a jar of peanut butter. But when you're spending $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, this is an asset. This is not just a stroll in the park. You know, I think the TikTokification of real estate has really, dare I say, damaged or ruined the level of importance that agents play. And trust me, I'm not trying to say that you know, we're the almighty, but what I'm trying to say is I've sat with enough families to see how important having a roof over your head is, how important having, you know, being within your budget is. I've seen enough families and livelihoods and beginning of life and end of life conversations to know this is a pretty important and significant purchase. So whether you're buying or selling, make sure you have someone that knows forward, backward, up, down, left, right, what they're doing and how to put you in the most advantageous position possible. I put out these numbers because there's a lot of insight to gain from them. Sure, it might be dry, it might be boring. This is not as sexy as Instagram and TikTok is, but this is the stuff that matters. Super happy to be back. My name is Mason Martinez. I'm a real estate agent here in Vail, Arizona, 85641. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know.